Hey guys, just a quick impromptu video. So it's one of those heads up videos that it's for people that perhaps are new to Japan or might be coming to Japan later, and it's just one of those heads up videos to give you a bit of an idea of what you might experience while you're here. Because I've noticed over the years that people have said that because they'd already heard about something on our channel, when they experienced it for themselves, it was less stressful because they knew it was normal. The Japanese version of normal. So it's one of those. So banks, very boring topic. I've talked before a long time ago about Shinsei Bank. We use Shinsei Bank. It's a really good bank for foreigners. It's a big bank based in Tokyo. They've got online banking in English. We've been using them for years and they're excellent. So I can do bank transfers to pay my bills. I can transfer money from Australia or to Australia. You can have more than one currency in there, so you can have currency from your home country or from another country in there as well as yen. It's just really, really good, useful bank, all online banking in English. They do have customer support in English as well. So we've recommended those guys over the years when people have said, what bank do you recommend in Japan? Shinsei Bank is really good. However, because of some things that we had to do locally here, we had to have an account at the local bank, right, which is a small regional bank. And it's just like, well, Shinsei Bank's sort of like a modern bank with all sorts of modern sort of stuff happening. The regional bank is like time travel. When you walk in there, it's like walking back in time, you know. And you go in there, and and they've got a few branches in the area. And you walk in, they've got little branch, little office, but they'll have about 10 staff in there or 12 staff in there, all sitting at desks. And I went in there this afternoon, and I walked in the door, and there was no customers. There was about 12 staff sitting at desks, and one lady faffing around behind the counter. And they've got a little take a ticket thing. So I walked over, and I've been in there before when there's no other customers, and they still make you take a ticket because that's the system, right? So I walked in, there's no other customers. I walked up to the machine, took a ticket, and then straight away she's pushed a button and it's come up with my number right on the little screen to say it's my turn. Surprise. So I took the ticket, straight away my number's come up, and I've just basically handed the ticket to her. She's standing there at the counter, right? And what do you want to do? And I had a bill, and quite often when you go in to pay a bill, if it's an electricity bill or a tax bill or something like that, health insurance bill, something like that, usually they just scan it and they faff around and say, please take a seat. They faff around and boom, 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 and you pay the money, and eventually it's done after 10 minutes or so. But I had a bill that I had to pay by bank transfer, which meant it had the company's bank details on it, and so I wanted to pay it by bank transfer. So I gave her the bill because the bill had the amount and all the details to transfer on it. So all the information was there. So I handed her that and my bank book. So here's another thing about regional banks. The modern banks like Shinsei, you have a card, of course. This regional bank, you can have a card as well, but usually people have a passbook, like old style book, right? And when you do a transaction, it prints on the book like it did 80 years ago in other countries, right? So you got your bank book. So I handed her the bill and the bank book and said, I want to do a bank transfer, please. And she said, okay. And she faffed around a bit, and then she said to me, do you have your inkan? Now, some of you would remember we made a video a while ago, a long time ago, years ago. The Japanese government said that they wanted to become paperless, that the goal was for us to become paperless. And one of the early steps to that was to stop using inkan, right? The stamp, you know, the registered stamp that we have to have. And so you've got your stamp, and the stamp has a card that accompanies it that's issued by the city. And then you sometimes if you're buying something big like a house, you have to get a certificate to say that's your stamp, right? And the government said years ago that they wanted to slowly do away paperless and do away with the inkan, do away with the stamp. And I made a video at the time and said it's not going to happen. That all these institutions are so used to getting the stamp, that it's so important to have the stamp, that the government's plan to do away with the stamp, it's not going to happen, right? So anyway, she's standing at the counter and she says, do you have your inkan? And I said, no, I don't. And she said, oh, come this way. And at the end of the counter, they've got these little booths. So usually if you're going to do something that they think you need privacy for, they'll sit you down at one of these booths, right? So you move along the counter to one of these booths, and she's sitting on her side of the counter, and I sit down on my side of the counter, and she puts all the stuff in front of her, and she sits there and types away at the computer and brings up my account, and then types in some more stuff, and then looks at something else and stuffs around, looks around, stuffs around. 5 minutes of that, and I said, is there a cost for the transfer? And she said, yeah, it's 800 yen, I think she said, about $8. So, and I realised I didn't have any cash. So I said, just one moment. I went out to the car and I got my coins and came back in with my little bag of coins. And so she's typing away at the computer and faffing around at the computer. So all in up, we've probably been there about 10, 15 minutes. And then she says, so we can't do transfer without the in-card. Right. So you can't do it. And I said, so Moody, right? Impossible. She said, yes. Oh, okay. So collected all my stuff, and it was 2:45, and I collected all my stuff, and I said to her, what time you close? 3 o'clock? She said, yes. 3 o'clock. The bank closes at 3 o'clock. Oh, okay. So I can't do it, right? So, all right, thanks. And I get up to walk out the door, and the dozen staff all say, "Arigatou gozaimashita," right? Because when you walk in, they all greet you. All the staff sitting there at their desks. And then when you leave, they all say thank you. And it was like 12 staff, computer, here's my bank book, here's the bill. You can't pay it because you haven't got your little stamp, right? And then as I leave, they all say with their happy voices, thank you. It's like, yeah, thanks for nothing. So just ridiculous. And I mean, a few things are ridiculous. One is that, needing your little stamp so you can pay a bill. The bill had my name on it. The bank book had my name on it. I had a wallet that's full of ID with my registration, citizen registration or resident registration card and my driver's license and all my other ID. I'm wanting to pay a bill with my bank account to a bill in my name. But we can't do it without the little rubber stamp. And what's more ridiculous than that is that she asked me at the counter at the start, 2 minutes in, she asked me, do you have your in-card with you? And I said no. But she had to go through that whole process of going and sitting down and typing on the computer and faffing around, letting me go out to the car to get my coins, come back in again, faffing around, and then saying. So whether it was because, who knows, whether it was because she didn't want to just say no at the start at the counter, you can't do it without your in-card. So instead of just saying that, she faffed around and wasted another 10, 15 minutes of my time, including going back out to the car, getting the coins, coming back again, and then telling me, no, you can't do it because you haven't got your in-card. But that's so typical. The reason I'm making the videos on the way home, I was thinking, yeah, that is so typical. When you go to a regional bank or you go to a post office or when you go to, this is the sort of stuff that drives foreigners nuts. All those good things that we make videos about all the time are the things that are great about Japan. But stuff like this, when you talk to other people who have lived in Japan long term, read the comments under this video from the other people who've lived in Japan for a period of time, who've experienced stuff like this, does your head in. The ridiculousness of it, I actually felt, it went through my head when she first said can't do it without the in-card. It went through my head that I wanted to say to her, are we still living in the Edo period? It went through my head. I didn't say it, but it went through my head. Are we still living in the Edo period? We're in the age of computers and all the ID and everything else, but you still need your rubber stamp to pay a bill in your own name with your own bank account. Just ridiculous. And nobody, when the systems, here's the other lesson we've got from this too. When there's a system like that, there's nothing you can do. When they tell you that you can't do it without your income, that's it. There's none of those 12 people in that room, including one of them would have been the boss. No one's going to go, oh no, we can pay that, we can help you with that. Nobody's going to do that. So it's just what they do. Just what they're like. So this is what you're up against in Japan. It's like time travel. It really does feel like that you're in this room. You can just imagine that same sort of environment 100 years ago or 150 years ago, going into an old bank with all the people sitting at their desks and everybody's using rubber stamps and loads of paper and just like that, just what it feels like. And whenever you do get something, even something like paying a bill, it won't be ever handled by just one person. When you do manage to pay a bill, There's lots of stamping going on, and the person at the counter always takes it to someone at one of those desks who stamps it as well. And then sometimes if it's something big, we've done big stuff with the house in the past, and they'll take it to a person and get a stamp, and they'll check it, they'll take it to someone else, they'll stamp it, bring it back. We paid a big bill there once with cash, and there was like 3 people involved, and 2 of them counted the cash. You know, one person counted it, and then the other person counted it, and just like being in the 150 years ago, you know. So nothing you can do about it. Nothing you can do about it, because none of those people in there, if there's a procedure, if there's a rule. So just ironic though, it kept going through my head while I was sitting there. Lots of stuff goes through your head, that the art is to keep it in, not say any of it. You know, are we still living in the Edo period? I really wanted to say it, didn't say it. The other one was, it was really going through my head when she said incan, that it's supposed to be we don't need it anymore. You know, that's what the government said years ago. Whenever I made that video, it was like 3 or 4 years ago, the government said, we want to make Japan paperless, and we want to do away with all the paper that we use. We use too much paper, and less, and do away with incans. We don't need incans. And remember, I made the video at the time and said it's not going to happen, and it hasn't happened. Every time we've done something, needed to do something important, you still need the incan. I didn't think we'd need it for this. I didn't suspect to pay my bill with my bank account. I didn't suspect I'd need an incan for that. They tricked me with that one. I had no idea. But everything else, you go to City Hall and you want something done, you want to request something, or anything that you want to do that's sort of half important, you need your incan, you need your stamp, which is just ridiculous. You know, that is 150 years ago type thinking, isn't it? Or 500 years ago, or 1,000 years ago, whenever they started using incans. So anyway, there was that. So that was this afternoon's frustration. So the bill's not paid because I had no chance. The bank's more than 10 minutes away, which meant that I didn't have time to come home, get the incan, go back again, and pay the bill. So the bill's not paid. So got to go back again another day, try again. So anyway, there it is. There's the heads up. I know. I just heard someone ask, what happens if you don't have an incan? Yeah, good question. Some things, if you don't have an incan, if you've only been here a short period of time and you don't have one, you don't have a stamp, some things they will let you just sign, some things. But there's a lot of major stuff, important stuff, like, you know, obviously that bank, you'd have no chance at that bank. Probably, that because it's a little regional bank, right? So those guys are living in the past. And there's a good chance you probably wouldn't be able to open an account with them without an incan. Probably. You know, so again, you know, in contrast, Shinsei Bank, I think I opened my bank account with Shinsei Bank online, I think. I don't think I've ever been to a Shinsei branch, I don't think. So, you know, that's a modern bank. That's a modern bank that's got everything you'd expect of a modern bank and more, probably. Some of the systems they've got online are really good. The bank transfer, the money transfer, and the different currencies and everything. It's pretty good. So Shinsei Bank, guys. If you deal with them, you won't have any of this problem. But when you deal with small regionals or small post offices or even big post offices, you know, some of you guys know I gave up. I used to sell stuff online through eBay, and I just gave up because it was just too much stress going to the post office. Just too much hassle. Not for everybody. I know some people have said to me that they haven't had any problems with Japan Post, but usually the post office, just the faffing and the illogical stuff, I think, with the bank and the post office and with different bureaucracies here, companies, bureaucracy and government bureaucracy. Some of the bullshit is so frustrating that's some of the stuff that drives foreigners nuts. You know, quite often if you get someone who's not Japanese, who's lived here for a while and they're leaving, if they give you a list of the things that they're leaving for, quite often that sort of crazy stuff will be on the list. The lack of logic, you know, the lack of logic, and they don't use logic. We made a video about this a while ago. You know, none of those 12 people in that room would have seen any problem with refusing to let me pay a bill that's in my name with my bank account. There was no question about whether I was me, by the way. That wasn't a question. What they weren't interested in ID. It's just that their system says that particular form needs a stamp, right? And if you don't have the stamp, they can't do the form. That's the end of the story. So the lack of logic in that, right? But that's really common here. You get lots of systems here that are sort of old style systems that's been like that for the last, who knows, 500 years. How long's that bank been open? However long that bank's been there, that's been their system, and it just, nobody changes it. Nobody says, wait a moment, it's 2025, we got technology now. Maybe we don't need the stamp anymore. Their own government, the federal government, the Japanese government said they wanted to do away with incans, but as I predicted at the time, these institutions aren't going to go, oh, that's a good idea, let's do that. No, we've always demanded incan, we've always expected incan, so that's what we'll do. So it happens. You can sense the frustration, right? That's why I make these videos, is because it's really frustrating. But at least if you know that this sort of stuff exists, because quite often, you know, people get a feeling that they're being discriminated against, or there's some frustration or some other thing, but I've been told by people who watch these videos that knowing about these things before you experience it can make it less stressful. Because like, oh yeah, there we go. It's still frustrating. I mean, I've had this so many times. I've walked into a bank or a post office or somewhere to try and achieve something and walked out not being able to achieve it because of some ridiculous reason, you know, and it doesn't get easier. I'm probably a little bit cooler about it than I used to be, but not much. I wasn't real happy when I was picking up all my stuff. The biggest frustration with that was the ridiculousness of the stamp, and having wasted 10-15 minutes sitting there, and then she tells me what, you know, I answered the question 2 minutes in that I didn't have the incan with me, and 10-15 minutes later she's telling me, oh, you can't do it without an incan. Why didn't you tell me that at the counter 10 minutes ago? So that sort of stuff's really frustrating, you know. She just probably didn't want to say no. They don't like saying no to people. Nobody here likes saying no to anybody, and particularly customers. If a customer wants something, it's really hard for them to say no. But they do. After faffing and wasting some more of your time, they will tell you, no, you can't do it. So, anyway, that was this afternoon's fun. So be aware, guys. Those of you who are living, I know those of you who already live here and have lived here for a while, have probably already written your story below this video telling us about your experience that was similar. No doubt. No doubt there'll be stories down there about people who've had similar things at banks and post offices and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, it happens. It happens in Japan. Anyway, that's enough of that. More videos coming soon.